Hi there, and thank you for joining me as I set up a new week on my planner. I am currently using the Sterling Ink A6 size, and it's been a very good use so far. I've been using it very frequently and just taking breaks here and there when life gets too busy. But other than that, all of the pages have been fairly filled up. So this is the week we're currently on, and I'm going to go ahead and prep for week 12. Yes. Not a lot has changed from my planning style. I am happy to say though that this is the first week that we're all actually home. So after a year of traveling for work with my husband, all of us are finally just set at one location, and we're so happy to be all of us back in the house together with no scheduled trips so far. So at least for the month of March. So we're gonna enjoy this bit. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, I always like to keep, in fact, let me add a bit more light. I don't know if this, no, it's good, right? I always like to keep a little checkbox on right beneath my day to note the main thing I want to get done or the main thing that I want to focus on for that day. The reason I have this is because sometimes things just do not go as planned. Especially now with the pregnancy, like sometimes I'm either too tired or things come up, and I at least want to have one highlight of something that I made sure I did for that day. So instead of focusing on a long list, at least get that top priority done. And it really helps me feel a lot more productive at the end of the day, even if there weren't a lot of tasks done. So that's why I like to keep that on top, and just to highlight it a little more, instead of looking like one of my bullets that I do, I make it a little box so it could stand out. Beneath that, I had been keeping a little time slot for when I woke up. And then sometimes I also kept little checks of things I wanted to do as soon as I rised. So over here, I was tracking me starting work at 6 a.m. and tidying the room. And over here, I was tracking making the bed and getting dressed before I leave. It all depends on the week. So on this week, I was actually home. So I had more of like home morning tasks. And this week we were traveling, so I had more tasks of what I would do when I was at the hotel instead. But having those abbreviations really helps me save space and have it top of mind as soon as I wake up too. I don't want to keep on tracking the time I wake up, but maybe instead I'm going to use that little sunshine. I'm not going to change my icon, but I might use it instead for when I start working. I know a lot of people recommend like for you not to do work right as soon as you rise, but it's just been what works for me with my current schedule. Typically, something that I do recommend though is not to start directly with conversations. So I'll do tasks that don't require me to engage with other individuals, either updating stats or clearing out my mailbox, but not necessarily talking with anyone at that moment. That helps me slowly like wake up my brain before I get into actually conversing with others. I have been working on building a little AM routine over here. I think I still have more things to add to it. I have just scattered thoughts right here for me to consider. So this is still in the works. As my thing to remember, I'll put when I started work, and then I'll write over here AM. And this will represent a little reminder for me to do my AM routine. Now, I used to call these my productivity bubbles or my project bubbles, which were essentially little circles that represented initially each project, and then I switched it to each client, but now I'm wanting to use it as hourly tracker for work. Oh god, I have quite a few meetings for this week. Okay. I'm glad I checked on that. Is this the second to last week? Oh wow, we're really planning ahead. This is a sticker book I am currently using. And let me use these boxes. So I've got a meeting. I got double meetings on Friday that I need to prep for. And then I have another one on Thursday. I kind of want something to unite them here. For those of you who don't prefer the sticker decorations, I'm sorry. I really like them. I like having these like quarterly and monthly planning meetings for work because it gives me a reminder of like, oh man, I have to plan for that for myself as well. Like personal wise, not work wise. Like I need to get my own personal game plan going. I had set up this like quarter planning and I really had a hard time sticking to it. I feel quite behind. And now I know that I've got 3 meetings coming up next week. And I scheduled my OB appointment at the worst time ever. Right smack in the middle of meetings. These 2 are going to be held at the same time. Oh my gosh. Well, we'll see how this goes. Yeah, okay. I'll figure it out. So this is how I generally like to start off my setup. So definitely like to have my morning section pre-written and then any reminders as well as some minimal decorations on there. Now I used to also set up my PM like reminders, but I've been using a habit tracker instead of writing them on each individual day. And I've been liking that so far. So I'll probably stick to the habit tracker for this week. So let me go ahead and get that into this section as well. So the way I have my daily habits set up is that mentally I kind of have from like earlier in the day to the afternoon to the evening. So I've kept reading as a nighttime activity and I never do it since the start of the year. I've never been able to read at that time. So in an effort to get better at that, it has been 2 months, so I think it's a clear indication that yes, reading in the afternoon is definitely, or in the evening is definitely not for me. I'm going to keep it for first thing in the morning. My mindfulness is actually finding either a podcast or a video that allows me to stay motivated and on track with the things that I want to do. VA project, this is my virtual assistant work. Right now we have a project that we're working on as we're onboarding a bigger team. So I've got that one down to kind of like make sure I'm making progress in that. A PM tidy, this is my nighttime tidy before bed. And then here you can see it's turning evening wise. So make sure I take my vitamins, make sure teeth are brushed, little ones are brushed too. And by little ones, I mean my daughters. And then skincare. Typically the week prior, as the week is going on, I'm writing little notes of reminders for me to keep on track for next week. So I'll take a little sticky note and putting on the next week. So as this week is going and I think of stuff, I'll write it down so I can have a visual of things that are coming up. And in this case, things I kind of worked down is working on my daughter's coursework. So she is coming up to around 3 years of age, and throughout her second year, it was a lot more focused on mobility, focusing on speech, not so much strict, using index cards to teach her, we were using a lot more puzzles and games just to practice certain things with her. But now that she's going into 3, I want to be a little more intentional about what she's learning. So we are going to introduce a couple of index cards, still trying to keep it as fun as possible and within the attention span of a 3-year-old. But I do want to do research on more things that I can implement. So like that, when our newborn comes in, I already have a coursework load that I can follow, or at least a weekly routine of ideas that I can do. And I won't be as stressed looking for material while trying to get used to a newborn schedule. So that's what I have here. Let me just go ahead and kind of just want to schedule it for Monday so it can be on my plate ready to go, especially because I see that the rest of the week is going to be pretty packed. You know, something else that I've been trying to do, I do have debt this year that I had been trying to pay off since last year, and I just had not been focused on it. So I fell off the ball, and obviously I started using that credit card again, and now I have way more than I wanted to in debt. So I'm trying to, I know a good tip is like check your bank account on a daily basis, but honestly with how much I spend, I think checking it at least twice a week would really be like beneficial enough, because I don't use it that often. So I want to check my account. I put it here at least on a weekly basis. So as you can see, there are certain things that are not going to change on a day-to-day or weekly basis. Like your life is your life, and there's certain elements of it that are just meant to stay. I consider those elements like these few things that I started with. So I'm gonna wake up and do work in the morning. I'm gonna try to work on these habits because they've proved well for me. Then obviously the events that are scheduled in that you don't typically have on a weekly basis, but that are scheduled for that week that you're working on. And then finally, I like to implement those other tasks that have been on my mind and that need a spot during the week. So as I mentioned before, for this week, I am working on trying to put together a coursework plan for my daughter. And also we are trying to take advantage of these couple of weeks that we're going to be home to work on home improvements. We're trying to change the flooring in our house, since we do have, I'll see if I can get some footage of it. We have the vinyl flooring that's kind of like rolled out, and I have no idea since when it's been here. It looks fairly, I don't want to say outdated, because I'm not gonna lie, I did like the style of it, but it's been run down. I don't prefer this style for the way we're currently decorating our house, but I don't think it's ugly. I do think it can work well in other types of themes for a home. But man, ours has really been run down. It's been breaking apart in certain sections, so it's just time to go. And I'm excited to replace the flooring with the same floor we have already put in our bedrooms. So we got to get that moving. That's why I have purchase floors here. I'll probably schedule that for an afternoon thing. I'm gonna put it over here. And I am not gonna, I'll share with you all how this one goes. Another thing that I have is that I'm about midway through my pregnancy. I'm starting to feel more discomfort in my back, and I'm starting to feel more lethargy. So I'm trying to figure out how to still implement movement. I think it's been easily about a month and a half that I have not worked out my body. So we'll figure it out. I'll show you next week how implementing that one or fitting it into my schedule worked out. I'm not too sure right now how I'm gonna do it with everything that I have coming up for work, but we'll see. But this is how it's looking like so far. I hope you all enjoyed this setup and that I gave you some ideas for your own. And I'll see you here for the next one. Bye-bye.